we have to talk about the Dreamcast. We have to give it its own little section here because obviously it's Wes's possibly one of his favorite. It's not your favorite system of all time, right? It's like number two, maybe.
No, I think the Dreamcast is probably my favorite.
Is it your favorite? Okay, all
It's
right.
my
So right
favorite.
up there. And I mean, there's an all-star lineup of games of this console, but the biggest thing the Dreamcast had going for it, of course, was they just like I was talking about a few minutes ago, generations. Every generation, oh, it's like arcade perfect, arcade perfect. Saturn, that previous generation, they came kind of close. Like, all right, yeah, we're getting there. But Dreamcast was like, this is it. We've reached arcade ports at home
Hmm.
for sure. Like, I can't even imagine getting any closer than that.
No, I agree 100%, and it made it easy because a lot of the arcade games ran off an enhanced Dreamcast hardware, the Naomi board. So to port a game that ran on the Naomi board to the Dreamcast was so super easy, and it was almost virtually identical in every aspect.
Speaking of almost identical, Marvel versus Capcom 2.
Ooh,
I
can't go
mean,
wrong.
it looks so good in the Dreamcast. Like we talked about how during the SNES era, there's a lot of stuff that's like, it doesn't look as good as arcade. Marvel vs. Capcom 2 and Dreamcast looks like so close to as good as being on the arcade. I know the arcade's better. Don't hang me over that. I know I get it, but come on, man, go look at the two. Compare them side by side. It's
You really
so good in
can't
the
tell.
Dreamcast.
You
It's so
really can't
good.
tell.
The animation's great. Everything.
Everything. The music was spot on. There was nothing missing from Marvel vs. Capcom 2 from the arcade to the home version.
Now I know you did a lot of porting and stuff. So did you play this in the arcade and like couldn't wait to get it? Was this one of the titles you ported in from Japan?
I definitely imported that. When I heard it was coming, I couldn't wait to get my hands on it. Played it in the arcade, and I was like, "Oh, bet they're releasing it for the home version." It was on the Dreamcast. I was there, bro. Day one, and then I bought it again in English.
I wonder. You have to go back to your catalog one time and see how many games you bought first in Japanese to play it early, and then bought it the second time in English.
Quite a few, quite a few.
Yeah, I'm sure it's at least probably like 50 to 100, something like that.
Easy, easy. Because I
Easy.
mean, just off Dreamcast alone, like Sonic, I bought Japanese, and then I bought the American. Marvel vs. Capcom, bought the import, bought the American. Uh, Blue Stinger, bought the import, bought the American. So yeah, it's quite a few, man.
On average, I know this would fluctuate depending on what generation of consoles you're talking about, but let's just, as we're talking about Dreamcast, let's continue that. On average, about how long ahead of a time would you get it on the Japanese version before it would release in America? Like 6 months, a year? Like what are we talking?
Then like it was usually like 6 to 8 months.
Okay,
It was it
because
was
back
it was a long wait. Yeah.
yeah back in the day it was much longer, right? It would be like a year or two, depending on what, because they had to translate everything and do all that stuff, right? But
Hmm.
wasn't it much longer during the SNES and Genesis era, or was it
No,
pretty close? No.
it was pretty close. It was pretty close. Either it was like a 6 to 8 month window, or it didn't come out at all.
Oh well, that makes sense.
Because like I imported for the Super Nintendo Street Fighter 2 because I had to have it, and it took like really like 6 months before it came out in America.
So all your friends were going to your house.
Oh man, I was having Street Fighter parties.
I believe it. Now, sticking on the Dreamcast theme, the next one is, I'm not going to say it's my favorite Dreamcast game, but it might be.
It's
Crazy
up there for
Taxi.
you. It's up
Dude,
there for
Crazy
you.
Taxi is so good. It's so much fun. It's such a simple idea, and it sounds terrible. If you just tell somebody you drive around a taxi, go as fast as you can, go from one stop to another, that sounds boring until you do it and
Do
you
you
listen to
play it?
the amazing soundtrack that it happened to come with, and you drop people off at Pizza Hut.
It was. I never played Crazy Taxi in the arcade. I saw it, never actually took the time to play it until it came home
I
and
don't
played it
remember
on
if I did or not,
VHS.
to be fair, but I mean, it's just like the arcade. Like we just talked about. The Dreamcast had so many arcade ports that looked just like it. Played just perfectly at home.
It did. It did. It fit right at home. And from what I remember, because I didn't play it in the arcade, I saw it, watched a lot of people play it, and when I got it at home, it looked identical. That was a really good port.
Yeah, I played the hell
Really
out of
good
that
arcade
first
port.
one.
Oh,
I got
first
the
one was
second.
excellent.
I got the second one recently, but I haven't really had time to play it, unfortunately. Um, but I wonder if did you play the second one? Do you remember if the soundtrack was as good as the first one? That's what I'm mostly curious about.
From it wasn't as memorable as the first one was. It was okay. Now, like Crazy Taxi 3, I don't remember the soundtrack at all.
I don't remember if I played Crazy Taxi 3 because that was an Xbox title, right? That's what they released it on.
Yep, it was an Xbox title.
I feel like I might have not played that one. I definitely played two for a little while, and one I obviously played the hell out of one. But Sega's talking now about bringing that game back, but they want to make it like a game as a service. I'm like, how are you going to make Crazy Taxi a game? Like every time you pick somebody up, like you're going to pay them? Like how's that work? Like, what do you mean?
I would love to see them bring Crazy Taxi back.
I would too, but not as like a live games as service, like online game. I just want another Crazy Taxi. That's all I want with a banging soundtrack.
Yeah, yeah.
You can, since Pizza Hut's pretty much dead everywhere, you just replace it with something else, like Domino's. I get
Domino's
Domino's
Chick
is back now.
or Chick-fil-A or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. Get some new sponsorships in there.
Oh man, yeah. Crazy Taxi was, man. I'm just reliving like my whole arcade life, like right now. This is great.
Speaking of more arcade ports, Wes, we got classic shooter here. Now when I say shooter, I mean like total, not a third person shooter, not a shoot 'em up,
A light gun shooter,
a light gun shooter.
and we know how you love your light gun shooters.
They're so good, so good. It's kind of hard to mess them up, except you can.
You can.
But this one was not a mess up. This was House of the Dead 2 for Dreamcast.
I now that I played in the arcade a lot.
I actually, this is the reverse. I think I played the shit out of this in the arcade, and I don't know that I played the Dreamcast version, but I know that it was like,
What? Oh,
like
Matt.
perfect. I didn't have a Dreamcast light gun, man, but I played the hell out of this game in the arcade. I was there.
Well, I mean, the Dreamcast one it was identical. It really was. You couldn't tell. Like down to the intro voice when you hit start, the whole House of the Dead. Oh, it was, man, it was all there. It was so good. So good as far as arcade ports are concerned. Again, but it ran off the Naomi board, which was the Dreamcast hardware. So it was so easy for them to bring this game home with minimal cuts to it, if at all.
Nah. The biggest downfall for the Dreamcast for me, like, well, let me take that back. That's a big thing to say. One of the downfalls for Dreamcast for me was that light gun, because in Japan they had an official light gun that Sega made and they put out, and then you know some things happened in the U.S. and they were like, we're not going to release a gun, and then we got a Mad Catz gun or some other terrible. And I just saw that shit, West, and I was like, I can't even know. I cannot do this. And I didn't. And, they didn't make a lot of light gun games. I think they made like House of the Dead 2 and like maybe one or two other games. And that was it. There was not many light gun games on the Dreamcast.
No, I mean there was what, Virtual Cop. There was,
Yeah, I think they made one of those.
yeah, there was Confidential Mission, which was Virtual Cop James Bond style. I don't know. I think that was it. I was outside of House of the Dead.
There wasn't many. So I didn't see the point in buying the shitty Mad Catz gun so I could play House of the Dead at home. I would just go to the arcade with a roll of quarters and be, totally satisfied.
But for the topic that we're discussing, yes, House of the Dead definitely belongs on one of a great arcade port from arcade to home console. It's good stuff.
And I think if I go back and I played it now, I would get over the fact that it wasn't like the official Sega gun, and I would use that shitty Mad Catz one. Was that was that the green one? No, the green one was on Xbox. Mad Catz made like an Xbox one.
Right.
That was terrible too. I don't know. Maybe I'm judging it too harshly just because I see Mad Catz and I'm immediately disgusted. Maybe it might not have even been a Mad Catz gun. It might have been another company because I don't remember. But I just remember being disgusted that it wasn't it wasn't Sega's
It
official
wasn't.
gun.
It wasn't an official gun.
No, and they released it in Japan. Like, what are you good? Just put it out
Yeah.
here. What are you doing? What are you doing?